still alive? Yeah, peace of mind I couldn't find that. Judge my flaws.
I'm Debra Danielsen, host for the Rebel Podcast. We have been in our travel adventure series, and now we're going to talk about adventure experiences that you can have for the holidays to celebrate with family and friends. Many people are fascinated with home tours. Today, we are going to hear about home tour experiences available for you to explore for a unique adventure experience. So why do so many people like you and I want to go inside of other people's homes and look around? Well, the number one thing I can think of is curiosity. It is natural for us to want to look about other people's homes to see how they live, to see if we can get a glimpse into someone's personality, their values, and their lifestyle. Another important thing is inspiration. Home tours really can inspire you and I to update our own homes or to try some new decorating trends. And there's the ever favorite escapism. Home tours can transport you and I into different places and times. A tour of a historic mansion can let you see a glimpse into the past, while a tour of a celebrity's home can catapult you into a peek of the lifestyle of the rich and famous. And now let's talk about social media. With home tours becoming increasingly popular on social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, this has made home tours more accessible to people all over the world. It has helped to create a community of people who are passionate about home decor. Some of the most fascinating things about home tours are the architecture, seeing different architectural styles and learning about the history of homes. The decor, people are just drawn to homes with a unique, stylish decor, and learning about the homeowner's design choices and motivations. The personal touches. It is fun and interesting to see how homeowners have personalized their homes with their own unique collections, artwork, and other belongings. Of course, lifestyle. People get a glimpse into a homeowner's lifestyle and routines. They may also be interested in learning about the homeowner's hobbies and interests. Overall, home tours can be a fun and informative way to learn about different homes, lifestyles, and they can be a source of inspiration and escapism. Today, you can plan a historic homes tour for the holidays experience for you and your friends or loved ones. Today, Dr. Richard Warner is with us to talk about this home tour experience that's taking place soon in Council Bluffs. This is Debra Danielsen, host of the Rebel Podcast. Today we're going to interview Dr. Richard Warner. He is going to tell us all about what voyeurs want the most, this home tour that's coming up in Council Bluffs. I'm really excited about it. It's an event that I started several years ago. And it has been so successful because why? As we talked about earlier, we're all voyeurs at heart. We all want to go past these houses that we've looked at for many years and see what's inside of them. What inspires people? How do they decorate? What are their hobbies? Are they hoarders? Well, you can tell a lot by a person by going through their house. Richard is here to share with us some of the cool things about this adventure experience for the holidays that you, your friends, and your coworkers can enjoy together. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really wonderful to be here, but you've already put a whole different spin on it. I mean, I was going to talk about Christmas decorations and things. What I like about the home tour is that it's a non-commercial, somewhat low-key way to start the Christmas season. In these historic homes, it's kind of a traditional way. What a great note. There's so much rush. What a great note to start this on. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's a fundraiser for Preserve Council Bluffs, which is the organization you started. And I'm relatively new with the organization, just a few years. And Mabel lived in what now would be considered a historic home. Aunt Jean did, my grandmother did. I was used to that sort of, I didn't, the home I grew up with was brand new, but I knew what some of this older architecture and some of those finer details looked like. And a lot of the younger people today, they don't. There aren't as many of them, of those old homes. So it's a chance to see that.
Absolutely. And today, a lot of people are all about mid-century modern. The big thrust is we want to go mid-century modern. Oh, that Victorian stuff? Well, that's just a little bit too dated for me. But I will tell you, when you walk into one of these 18th, 19th century homes, and you're able to look at authentic furnishings, and you're able to look at putting the new spin on it. Oh, these people really do have microwave ovens. They have TVs. They have Bose sound systems, right? It's a perfect blending of old and new, but you feel like you've transported yourself, even though there are some new aspects in these homes because they've been modernized and we have indoor plumbing. But even though they've been modernized, they're still fascinating. And the people who tend to live in these houses are characters of their own, and they're pretty fascinating. So what day is this event going to be on?
It's usually, I think almost always, the first Sunday of December after Thanksgiving. So that's December 3rd this year.
Okay.
And the hours, just to make sure I get it right, I've got it right here in front of me, because sometimes the hours will be slightly different, but it's going to be from noon to 4:30. Well, our 8 buildings. Well, there's actually the Holy Family Churches on there, but
There's 6 houses and 1 commercial, or
let's see, 8 all total. We have Holy Family, and then it looks like there's 7 houses,
7?
counting the Brigade House.
7 houses and 1 church.
Yes, and 1 church.
Okay. And now, how much does the home tour cost?
$20.
Which is a deal.
Which is a deal for that. I mean, your whole afternoon. Also, the ticket will get you a discounted admission at the historic General Dodge House that same day. The home tour ends at 4:30. If your Dodge House is open till 5, so if you still want to see their spectacular decorations, you can do that with this ticket as well. And it's wonderful. Last few years they've cooperated with Preserve Council Bluffs on this, and we're really glad to see that. But you can just show up at any one of the 8 houses and buy your ticket right there. For a list of the houses and a map at preservecouncilbluffs.org. Preservecouncilbluffs.org.
Okay.
We'll just put that map up there this morning, so it's right
So
there.
can they buy tickets online
No,
this year?
This year
No.
it's just
Just at the
after-
house? Go to the website, look at the houses. I know a lot of people used to just pick out certain houses because they've driven by them their whole lives.
The
or
4 years, yeah.
out of curiosity.
We've heard about them, yes.
So if you want to just look at one house or go to one house in a church, whatever you decide, the tour is yours to make. It's your own adventure experience. So feel free to spend the $20. It goes to a very good cause. It helps preservation efforts in Council Bluffs and the historic. We have 4 residential historic districts in Council Bluffs, and we also have 2 commercial historic districts in Council Bluffs. These are all on the National Register of Historic Places, which is all part of the United States Government Parks Commission, parks area. So it is a parks, it is an activity, it is something that you can share with others, and I guarantee they won't be disappointed.
And historic preservation, it's kind of a connection between generations. Anybody that is alive today grew up in a time when Council Bluffs was very much in the shadow of our neighbor 8 times larger to the west. 1970s, Mike Wallace told his 60 Minutes listeners that it's not a very pretty little town. 1980s, Des Moines Register published one of my favorite headlines, Council Bluffs has hit bottom, or at least close to it. Mary Lou McGinn, who's our historic homes expert in Council Bluffs and I think a member emeritus of Preserve Council Bluffs, asked me to help her with a program one time, Council Bluffs in the 1890s. I knew nothing about it. And when I was looking at these newspaper articles, like, you are kidding. What a totally different attitude. These people that built these houses that we're talking about, their optimism was off the charts. It was almost a giddy euphoria.
Extremely wealthy.
Yes, they truly thought Council Bluffs would be to the Great Plains what Chicago became to the Great Lakes region. And here's your connection with it. This has been lost. This has been forgotten. But, you know, here are these living monuments to help pique that curiosity. But we have a lot of Omaha people come in. And I hear over and over the comments like, I had no idea Council Bluffs had these cool neighborhoods.
Right.
So I think it helps our civic identity.
It helps our civic identity, but I will tell you the reason I moved back to Council Bluffs from West Omaha. I had a 2-acre house out there, and it was beautiful. I built it from the ground up. But when I saw the Lysander Tully's mansion, a friend of mine owns that, I said, oh my gosh, I wish I had a house like this. So my friend went to work, and he found the current house I have now. And he said, Debra, you've got to check this house out. So I fell in love with it the minute I walked through the front doors. My front doors are 11 foot tall. I have 2 doors, they open out. And all I could think was, because I lived and worked in the south of France for many years, as Napoleon going through the Louvre on his horse and, you know, doing things. And I thought, I could ride a horse right through this front door. And so I was sold at that moment. But the wealth started in Council Bluffs, and the wealth migrated west to Omaha.
We were the big dog.
We were the big dog. There were fur traders, there were all kinds of things going on, all kinds of commerce going on, and it's an amazing city.
Council Bluffs, I mean, a lot of towns argue about, or they say that where the West began. Google where the West began. You'll get all these different towns. I have no idea where the West began, but I know where the East ended. It was Council Bluffs.
I know where the Great Plains begins because that is a geographic feature that you can actually look up. And Council Bluffs, because we're on the bluffs, is right on the edge of the Great Plains. So it's a real interesting place because we have the Potawatomi Indians. We have all kinds of frontiersmen. We have the Mormons that went through. We have the eastern terminus of the railroad where my great-great cousin met with Abraham Lincoln, who's my great-great relative, met with General Grenville M. Dodge. And they met there on a bluff looking towards Omaha to put in the eastern terminus of the railroad.
And I wonder how many people in Council Bluffs realize that today. And maybe people they don't like history, but the appeal of a good story is universal. A lot of people don't realize that actually Council Bluffs was probably the first Indian reservation, quote unquote, in the United States. The Potawatomi were moved here from the Great Lakes region in one of the first acts of Andrew Jackson, President Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act of 1836. Wasn't the county, ironic, the county that's named for them, they didn't even want to be here, and they were only here 9 years, but it's a big part of our history. That's our county's name. And so many of those other things that you were talking about. A lot of people don't realize that
They don't.
President Lincoln issued 3 executive orders, designated Council Bluffs. In fact, the Supreme Court of the United States says Council Bluffs is milepost 0 of the Transcontinental Railroad. Never mind that Doc Durant laid the first rails in Omaha, but so he was a scoundrel. But that's part of the story too. That's part of the fun. I notice here, your house is on the tour?
One of my houses is on the tour. It's called the Thomas Metcalf House. And it is a really cool house, number one, and it's truly a celebrity house in many ways. So you may have heard of Mr. Fonda, Henry Fonda, the famous actor. Well, his sister lived right around the corner from my Metcalf house. And you would oftentimes, so I've heard, see the limo pull up with Henry in it who would pop out and go visit his sister.
Really?
Well, his sister was also very close to the Metcalf family. So it was not an infrequent thing to see Henry pop over with his sister to meet with the Metcalfs over there. So it's all cool. And, you know, I'm MTV, Teen Mom. You've seen several episodes filmed at the Metcalf house as part of our story. And now the Thomas Metcalf house, built in 1887, English Tudor revival, and one of the most significant forms and earliest forms of English Tudor revival in this Midwestern area, is on the National Register, and it's now open as an Airbnb. So if you would like to come and partake in our history, but if you'd like to come to this tour and take a look at this Thomas Metcalf house, I think people who love mission style also will find that English Tudor revival is very close to the mission style. This is the Thomas Metcalf house, English Tudor revival, 1887, on the historic home tour. Mission is more, you know, the prairie, more Frank Lloyd Wright kind of thing. So I think if you come, we'll make you feel right at home on Sunday, December the 3rd.
Are you going to be there? Many times the homeowners are, sometimes the
I am hoping to be there if I'm not called away. And part of what you're going to see in the house that we have from 1887 is you're going to see a vestibule when you walk in, then you're going to see a foyer, you're going to see wood beam ceilings in the foyer and in the dining room. You'll see all authentic 100% original white oak staircases, woodwork, and all the woodwork is original in the house. So it is 3 stories above ground, and the 3rd story looks out to the west, and I bet you could see 100 miles off of that bluff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible.
It's going to be fun. We're looking forward to it. And our dog, unfortunately, because she gets nervous, she's going to be in her doggy kennel so she can have peace and quiet.
I suppose that would be a bit disruptive for her there.
Yeah, she's very high strung. She doesn't go for, because she's a puppy, she doesn't go for a lot of strangers. She doesn't know what to do with that. But you will notice a lot of French antiques in the house. You will also notice a lot of early American, very appropriate period furniture in the house. One of the most fascinating things, if you're a lighting person, we have 2 chandeliers in there that are quite historic. We brought them down from Minnesota. We actually had to go to the library up there to get photographs that were taken. These are out of the original Rathskeller, which was in Ham's Brewery. And a Rathskeller is a tasting room within the brewery. So Ham's Brewery had a Rathskeller, and back in the early 1800s, they had these hand-carved monk faces because the monks used to make the beer. Oh. Here's an example of one of the 10 hand-carved monk faces you'll see on the tour.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I have 2 huge chandeliers that are hanging by toe chains, because these are massive, with hand-hammered wrought iron holding it up. We have two of these chandeliers hanging juxtaposed from each other in the house, exactly like they were in the Ham's Brewery. And there's also a photograph from the Historical Society of Minnesota to show the original Rathskeller.
Oh, that's nice to connect
It's a
the 2 like
very
that.
cool thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's just one house we're talking about here.
Just one house.
We got 7 other.
What do you think is another interesting point on the tour there?
A lot of people probably haven't been in the Holy Family Catholic Church. And I think that's probably one of the things when you, in those early days of Preserve Council Bluffs, you had wanted to be an asset to people and organizations that were involved in historic preservation, and it's tough. It's very expensive. You had a lot of hurdles to jump through, and the group from this church is trying to preserve that church, And so it's a good chance to look inside of that, see what they've done, get some of the history of that church. But I do want to mention Ken Freudenberg, one of our board members, and Jennifer Benson. They're the ones that put this together, looked up the histories, and I'm not really sure how Ken gets people to sign up, their houses or their homes for the tour. Probably a lot of arm twisting, I don't know. But I think, as you mentioned, that people who live in these kind of homes, it's not just a shelter to keep you out of the rain.
Right.
There's some pride that goes into this. Right. And so I think folks that live in a historic home are probably a lot more on board with sharing it and sharing that history and showing off maybe what they've done, because it is quite a lot of work to blend that old and the new. And
it takes money, it takes time, but most of all, it's about storytelling, and it's captivating and remembering that story in a way that will live on, so that other people coming afterwards will take care of what you've done and perpetuate that going forward. Mm-hmm. So it's a very special, to me, it's a very special, intimate look into not only the past, but the people who are in there right now. And I will tell you, one of the most beautiful homes that I've ever been in is the home that Ken and Kurt own.
The Woodward home.
The Woodward home never, ever has disappointed anybody who's ever been in it. But a tie to the Woodwards is also on this tour, which to me is the most fascinating, because I actually was alive at the moment when these little people were here. And at some point back then, Council Bluffs was the largest home to little people in the United States. And I think we boasted something like 2,500 little people. And to me, I grew up with that. I never thought it weird. I never thought it special. I just thought that's the way it is. When I read later in some document that, as I was doing research, and they called little people midgets back then. And so when you read your history books, you'll see that term in there. Today, we've modernized it to little people. But these were John G. Woodward. They were in entertainment, but they were like the mascot. They were the brand. They went out, they toured, they were in vaudeville, they did all kinds of things. But sadly, people get old, they pass away. And when Inez passed away, I was fortunate enough to get a lot of her private stuff.
Oh, really?
So I have that hanging in my house.
Nice.
And it's right outside my bedroom, and I look at it every day because I remember Inez. I remember Inez going to the grocery store. I was a very small child when all that was going on.
I have sufficient years that I never met her, but I do remember seeing she would wait for the bus at 4th Street, all dressed to the nines.
Which, definitely.
And she passed away in 1969, and by that time, we're kind of getting more casual. People were not dressing up at that much, but right. You could pick out Inez, and she was perfectly formed, just small.
She was gorgeous.
And and as you mentioned, I think there was a trend toward using little people in advertising at that time. That's when Buster Brown's shoes, Little Oscar, the world's smallest chef, was driving the Wienermobile and things. Yeah. Many times they were cast in childlike roles. To John G. Woodward's credit, the Burgatts, may have been mascots or advertising icons, but they were always dressed dignified.
Beautiful.
They are sophisticated people, just smaller. And they also work. I believe they traveled 22 states as advertising reps, trying to get, if you were a retailer, to get you to stock Woodward candy. And Woodward was, I believe, probably the second largest manufacturer west of the Mississippi. Ghirardelli out in San Francisco, it was a big player too, but it was a big operation.
So a lot of people don't realize, but I do, because my grandma actually worked at both places. So she worked at the John G. Woodward Candy Factory, and they also made popcorn. And she worked at the popcorn factory. And she told me that she actually got heat stroke one year because it was hot. There's no air conditioning. And can you imagine working in a popcorn factory during the heat? You know, it's just unrelenting. And I'm sure there was no cross ventilation or consideration about working conditions, right?
Oh, those things weren't thought of
Yeah,
back then. You know,
exactly.
that was just part of. Well, you know, think of the people working on the steam locomotives down at the roundhouse, and it was just that was just part of the workplace at that time. No, that's interesting. I think my dad spent a short time working at the candy factory there, which is in the 200 block of Broadway, where Ogden Place is today.
Yes.
And if you're if you've been around Council Bluffs long enough that you ever were in the Hinky Dinky store that was in the location, actually you set foot in part of the Woodward Candy Factory. It had been a 4-story building designed by J. Chris Jensen, which I see designed at least one of these homes on the tour. And then the top 3 floors were removed, and Hinky Dinky they built parking on the roof so you could enter from Pierce Street and then take the Council Bluffs first self-service elevator to the first floor to buy groceries. But I remember Dad telling me that was part of the old Woodward Candy Factory.
I just want to tell you, thank you so much, Richard, for being here today. I'm personally excited to meet all of the people who buy tickets, sign up, come to this event. I know you'll be impressed, you'll have a good time, and you'll meet probably a lot of other people who have common interest with you. So please come and join us for the 2023 Historic Home
For
Tour.
the holiday tour, yes.
Yes, we're all waiting to see you. Here's a list of the 8 properties that you will see on the tour. Enjoy. And thank you for being here today.
Always glad to talk history. Thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome. Watch the Rebel podcast on Cox 22, stream us on YouTube and Spotify, and listen on Apple Music and Amazon. Of course, we love you to stream, like, and follow it. And please don't forget to donate.